Video 10 is our final video for week 1, and it's a quickie on the topic of development. So in the previous video, I told you that often anthropologists will work with indigenous peoples through cultural survival, but they'll also work with them and other groups who are not indigenous peoples through development. What is development? Generally speaking, what I'm talking about is a set of projects that are meant to give aid or expertise to other countries to help build infrastructure, to provide clean water, to provide access to opportunities for people that are, aid projects, development projects, things like that you may have heard of and been involved in yourself or critiqued in some of your classes. And I want to talk about 2 ways that anthropologists join the conversation about development, 2 contrasting ways. So first we have a field called development anthropology, and it's a subfield of anthropology, actually a subfield of applied anthropology that is directly involved in promoting development projects. So applied anthropology is basically taking anthropological knowledge out of the classroom and into the real world. So applied anthropologists take information and try to use it to change the world, to make the world a better place, to change people's lives, so forth and so on. So some applied anthropologists work in development anthropology, and they're using their knowledge as anthropologists to make development projects work better. So anthropologists are involved in development anthropologists because they feel that they can play a key and unique role. First, they can understand and share local knowledge. For example, I have a friend who works in development anthropology in North Africa. She works with USAID projects. USAID is this enormous aid organization associated with the U.S. government. And so they'll go in and provide money to build wells in rural areas. And this anthropologist, she helps them figure out where to situate the wells because they have to be, where people can reach them conveniently. They have to be in the particular places where she works. Women are the ones who get the water. So it's helpful to build the wells where women are walking anyway to go to their fields or do other kinds of work. So anyway, it's using that local knowledge to help development projects work better. The second thing that anthropologists in development anthropology can do is make recommendations and work with funders. Again, with the end goal of making the projects work better. So why do anthropologists have to be involved in this? Well, typically because they speak the language of the funders, more so than the local people. They know beyond that kind of who the funders are, how to work with them, how to talk with them, how to make them understand local concerns better sometimes than local people can. And in part, that's due to the fact that many of the people working for these funding agencies, they might have some social evolutionist views about the people they're working with. Oh, these people they're primitive, they don't know what's best for them, we're here to help them, we're here to change their lives. And when you feel that way about people, it's very hard for you to take seriously what they have to say for themselves. So anthropologists feel they can play a role because they understand the people they've done research with, and they can translate those concerns and recommendations to the funders. Okay, so perspectives of development anthropologists are that anthropologists can make a difference. Anthropologists can speak up on behalf of voiceless peoples. They can use their knowledge to change the lives of people on the ground. And this motivates very much anthropologists to work in development anthropology. Other anthropologists are involved in the anthropology of development. Confusing to keep these differences straight because the wording is so similar. So instead of anthropology of development, you could think of critique of development. So anthropology of development is a critique of development and the involvement of anthropologists in development projects. So these are anthropologists who tend to be in the academy and say whenever anthropologists try to take their knowledge out of the academy and into the real world, they get in trouble and they can do more harm than good, especially when it comes to development. So anthropologists of development tend to focus on institutions, politics, rhetoric around all of this funding. So for example, they don't like the word development. They say, just the fact that you call it development shows that you're a social evolutionist. It means that you think that there are people in the world who are not developed, and by developing them, you will make them more like you. And if that isn't the same thing as savagery, barbarianism, and civilization, then I don't know what is. So they look at what things are called, how institutions are formed, how they work, and they find a mindset or worldview behind all of that that's very troubling to them. So, representative perspectives, anthropologists in this category will argue that development is the new colonialism. So it's, colonialism, if we define that as a stronger European power who comes into a country and gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. My apologies. If we define colonialism as a stronger society coming into a weaker society and sort of imposing its will on them, then anthropologists of development will say development is the same thing. It's a rich country coming into a poor country and saying, do this, do that. We'll give you money if you'll agree to this. We're going to change that. We're going to fix that. We're going to make you more like us. Anthropologists of development also argue that development is a form of social evolution, which gets back to what I just said about the term development itself. It's trying to force groups of people to become more, quote unquote, civilized, or like the societies that fund these development projects. And finally, they argue that development is not a choice. So countries often accept aid or development projects and then have a series of decisions kind of forced on them as they accept that. And so it's not a fair, balanced deal. And often development is imposed on them against what they know to be best for them. So development workers and funders may not be paying attention to what local people have to say about themselves. Okay, so for this reason, anthropology of development is kind of anti-development, and they don't want anthropologists involved in it at all.